Hi, everybody. I'm Hat Kelly. I've been doing these 5-minute energy tips as a way of doing an outreach to my peeps, to people who may resonate with me and want to learn how to do what I do as far as self-care and energy work. I've also been sharing them out on YouTube as a thank you for all the people who share their expertise out on YouTube. I'm a big YouTube fan. I do a lot of tutorials and documentary. I mean, art tutorials and things. And so I wanted to share my lived wisdom out there too, as a thank you for all of the work that other people have shared out there. I really appreciate it. I thought it might be helpful just to take a moment to tell you some of my story. Like, why are you listening to me? Why are you trusting me to be the expert? Um, Back in the day, in the early 80s, 81, I think it was, I was in San Francisco as a young hairstylist, and I was around when the AIDS epidemic began. So most of my hair clients and most of my colleagues got sick at that time. Most of them died. There are some survivors to this day. God bless them, and thank you, God, for that. That experience of being ground zero of a pandemic radicalized my spirituality. And so I went to a school called Psychic Horizons, which taught these meditation practices that I still use. It's still in existence, and it's a great place. I have developed over the years my own process, so it's based on what they taught me, but it's really shifted. I am into doing things in a more simple form, and that's what I teach. So I ran healing circles in the salon after hours and did other things, worked with individuals after I was trained as an energy minister. I was ordained in 1990. And I worked in doing that as a volunteer until about 1993, which was about, I don't know, 12 years after the epidemic started. I burned out like so many people in San Francisco and New York and LA, um, taking care of the people that we could take care of, and often failing to take care of others. I mean, it was just a horrible time. So I burned out, and in the process of recovering, um, I went and studied as a hospital chaplain at UCSF Medical Center. Chaplains always laugh when I say that I went into training, because most people, that is a very stressful thing to do. It's kind of like jumping out of the frying pan into the fire, right? But I trained for 2 years at UCSF Medical Center, and I loved it. I loved walking with people who were in the hospital, and I was pretty good at it. So, long story short, I ended up being a chaplain at UCSF Medical Center for 10 years after having trained there for two. Um, and I loved it. In the process of becoming a chaplain and training as a chaplain supervisor, which is basically a teacher of chaplaincy, I went and studied at the Franciscan School of Theology. So I ended up going to a seminary. So I have unusual schooling. Anyway, I did that, and then I retired as a chaplain when my brother died. My own grief load became too heavy, and I could no longer go in the groups, could no longer go into the hospital rooms. I could no longer do it. Um, Shortly thereafter, retirement, while I was doing my own grieving process and healing, um, I started volunteering at a homeless outreach center that's now called the Healing Well in San Francisco. And I began teaching meditation and doing the work that I've always done as a energy minister with people who were experiencing homelessness and or um, were at risk for homelessness, and people in early recovery for drug and alcohol. I come from a long line of alcoholics. My drug of choice was marijuana. I've been in recovery for a really long time for marijuana use. I started using really early as a coping mechanism um, when I was a child, and I stopped using when I was 27, I think, or 28. I lose track of time. So that's my story. I have a lot of compassion and love for addicts. I have a lot of love for their families, for alcoholics, for people on the margins. Um, and that's my story. So thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for trusting me to share this information with you. And I pray for all of us. Thank you.